Just a little short aside here, and probably shouldn't be doing this. Shouldn't share negative information, but the testing of the radio failsafe I did yesterday brought something back to mind. A distasteful thing. I generally stay away from these things, but you should have seen what happened when I did this same thing with a quad in about, I don't know, it was about 2013 or 14. I joined a local AMA field and built up one of my quads and took it out there and learned about radio failsafes. It might have been when radio failsafes were first added to Ardu Pilot. I have no idea. I was working with it in a very early version. I went out there, I put my little quad up in loiter, and I held the radio up so you could see it in the GoPro on my hat, and I turned off the radio, and I published it to YouTube. And in less than 24 hours, I had a nasty note from the AMA Club's president. You're not supposed to turn your radio off, another infraction. Blah, 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 blah. I only lasted about 2 months in that club. When I took my 433 radio out there with nobody at the field except me, flew extreme sky surfer for just a few minutes in some heavy wind, posted that video. Within 24 hours, an email from the club president. What are you doing flying that radio at our field? We've had trouble before with 72 megahertz or whatever he said, kilohertz, whatever the old original RC radios used to really low frequency. And just went on and on and on and on about me flying 433 megahertz at their field alone, solo. Didn't care one bit about me flying without a visual observer. I wasn't under goggles. I wasn't FPV. That airplane was just a straight up airplane with no flight controller or anything on it. But they raised hell because I was out there with 433 megahertz. I have my ham license. About 8 years ago, might be going on 9 years ago, very soon, I got my ham license before I turned on my 433 megahertz. Not because I was afraid of the FCC. Because I knew I could pass the test easily and be legal. I love it when the park ranger or a officer of any kind walks up to me and says, "Son, you're not supposed to be flying that drone here." Well, sir, it is legal here. Well, not unless you're got your credentials. Can I see your credentials? Well, sure. Here they are. Here's my ham license. Here's my trust certificate. I can hand everything to them. Here's my drone registration. I just don't want to have the hassles at the time. But boy, that AMA club. They had a person standing in front of them. I actually went into their website about a year ago, and they were just so proud that one of them had gotten their ham license and was going to do classes for the whole club, etc., etc., etc. What they could have had 5, 6 years, 10 years, almost 10 years prior to that, were they not closed-minded. So I still do have an AMA license. I still do keep my membership active, just in case there's a park ranger out there someplace who will be mad as hell until he sees an AMA license. If he thinks the AMA license makes everything copacetic, I have it to show him. It's the only reason I have it. It's not a bad yearly expense. I would love to go fly at some of the AMA fields. You know, there's a lot of rules there. Oh boy. Another infraction at the AMA field was when I was out there again in high winds with the Sky Surfer. That's a huge plane. It was really windy that day. And boy, I flew it around for a bit in that heavy wind. I got a message from the class president. I think that he had seen it and complimented me on a hat turn I made over the cornfield that was executed so perfectly in that high wind that he emailed me as a compliment. But then later in the video, and again, I was out there solo, no FPV or nothing. This was a straight up RC airplane. I think that video may still be in my channel here and might not be public. But I had a little trouble with it. It was so windy that day, and I flew behind the flight line. And I immediately purposely crashed the airplane because I knew that was a rule infraction. But still, like the club vice president or one of the other guys, the next day, even though one of them complimented me, the next day another one of them found fault with me flying behind the flight line, even though it was only like a short distance, and I broke the damn thing to quit breaking the rule. That's when I walked away from the club. It was crazy. And I hate it. There is a drone racing club around here. Now, those guys are all great. But I couldn't go back to an AMA field and even make a video with nobody there and show me turning off my radio like I did yesterday. Now, I didn't hold it up in the screen, but you heard it. You might have heard the switch click, and in the instant the switch clicked, it started up. Everything worked perfectly. But if I did that in an AMA field, they would want to have my head. I just can't take that kind of hostility. It was just rampant. And I have thought about trying another couple of AMA fields, but I'm just not comfortable in an AMA field. I'm just not. And I'm 100% sure nowadays that there's a lot of drone people like me. I think they're there. I think they're just keeping their heads down. Because I would say right now they're outnumbered at least 2-to-1 by people that'll just take their heads off at any infraction. That's not what I call group entertainment. Sorry about this short rant, but this little turning off your radio, and you saw I forgot to turn the dot radio back on. Thought my battery voltage was too low to refly it, all sorts of stuff. But at least I didn't get jumped on by some closed-minded person over that. I'm going to try to stay away from these negative things. I just don't like reliving them myself. Thank you.